Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everybody and welcome to round number 6 of AOR Hype Energy PS4 F1 for the Monaco Grand Prix. Tonight the drivers will be taking on 5.3 kilometres of some of the most hallowed tarmac in all of motorsport, and a track where we've seen incredible drama in the past, including Nervotank's stunning overtake at Massenet in Season 12, which is one that certainly sticks in the memory. Coming into this one, the championship is balanced on a knife edge, with the top 3 separated by less than 7 points, following an unprecedented 5 different winners in the first 5 races, so I think it's fairly safe to expect some more drama tonight. I'm AliK, and returning alongside me in the commentary box this evening is GamingAlimonda.
It's fantastic to be back here, and as you mentioned, 5 different winners. What an open championship we've had so far in Apex Online Racing for this particular tier, and well, Monaco historically has been one of the most challenging circuits, and it's really going to separate the good from the great tonight.
I agree, 100%. We should be in for another pretty good race. As I said in my intro, in the past around here we've seen some absolutely incredible races. And some of them have involved me as well. I don't have particularly good fond memories of this track as a driver, but as a spectator it has certainly offered up some fantastic drama. We are currently 2 minutes into this qualifying session, and of course this is often said to be the most important qualifying session of the season, because so much rides on having good track position around here, because overtaking is so difficult, so a huge amount of pressure on the drivers around here.
Absolutely. I mean, doesn't matter what strategy you pick, track position is king here. If you are low down the grid, it's going to be a very long afternoon for you.
Certainly is. As someone is already off, that's an interesting one. I'm currently on board with Flying Finn, who's hit the wall about 5 times so far in this qualifying session, even though he's only done 1 flying lap. And then I think I saw a Haas off at Mirabeau, which is an interesting place to run off. He was well down the escape road, so at least he was off the track, but the first victim of this qualifying session has been claimed only 3 minutes in.
Yeah, well, Danny MG is just stuck in the escape road. I mean, there's so many cars going by, he just can't get out, and he risks disqualification if he's not careful. But no, he gets going again, but that's probably wrecked his Hypersoft, so he might have to consider coming back in and putting another set on. And
the Hypersoft's extremely sensitive to the temperature as well. If you push too hard for even a few corners, the temperature will just go through the roof and they'll be almost undrivable. So that is definitely something to look out for in the race. Even though it's a pretty set one stop, it can still make it a little bit marginal.
Yes, absolutely. Just to let you know, I think the background music is still going. From It is. Well, you know, Monaco is
we do love some technical difficulties. Right, that's gone.
So bit of tunes there, but yeah, Danny MG making his way back to the pit lane. But yeah, we're in the 108s already, early on in the session.
Apologies about that. Let's move on to qualifying then. Now we've got rid of the banging copyright-free music in the background. We're expecting the pole time to be low 7s, maybe even a high 6 was rumoured in the chat earlier, but I think that might be pushing it a little bit, as Michael, our current championship leader by only 2 points, has stuck it on provisional pole, but that is the slenderest of margins from Alex and Ollie in second. That is insanely close.
Yes, it's been a really strong, but you know, in the real race, the qualifying session here is always freak goes first drive in 7th. It is one of the best qualifying sessions of the year to watch. The race is never as much of a spectacle, in my opinion, as the qualifying session on the Saturday.
No, I'd agree. This is definitely the most high pressure environment you'll find yourself in all season in qualifying, and the fact that it's so difficult to overtake in the race means it becomes much more a race of attrition than a race of dramatic overtakes or anything. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting race to say the least, and definitely on the game it's much more interesting than in real life, that's for sure. As I fixed my audio issues. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, no game sound apparently. I think it's
on that now. Right, I believe everything's working fine now. Apologies about that, but okay. I think we're on top of everything. So, you can see the provisional grid then. Whilst we've been running around trying to fix those technical issues, Epic Gamer has stuck it on provisional pole ahead of NTG Freak with almost exactly the same lap time. That is insanely close again, and Epic Gamer had a pretty strong showing out in Spain last time. I believe he won. It completely slipped my mind, but he was definitely involved in a battle for the lead with NTG Freak for pretty much the entire race, and he showed many times this season he has some unreal pace at certain tracks. It looks like this is another one of those for him.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, his qualifying pace has been impressive all season. I mean, particularly at Bahrain, where he really could have won the race that day if his tyres hadn't gone. But yeah, once again, he's just showing one lap pace at least, really good. But you know, he's put himself potentially into contention for the championship later on in the season with that victory in Spain last week.
Definitely. As we're currently on board with Aresi, who is one of the few drivers yet to set a time in this session. Aresi is coming as a reserve driver for this season. Obviously, he is a returning champion, having won the Season 13 title. He whacks the inside wall at the back, and that sends him flying into the outside wall as well. And, well, that's the end of that lap, and also his front wing, by the looks of things.
Yeah, nasty incident there, and he'll have to come back to pit. It's a bit of an expensive repair job for the team there.
Certainly, that's going to cost his Poor Force India team a fair amount of money in the end. Those front wings are fairly expensive items, it must be said, and I think the teams must definitely bring several extra front wings from Monaco because, well, particularly on the game, you see an awful lot of crashes. It only takes a minor mistake and you find yourself in a wall with varying amounts of front wing left on your car. Although we're not running sim damage in this league, I believe, so you can't get punctures from debris that's left around lying on the track, which can be very, very dangerous in some situations. I don't believe we have that on at the moment, but one thing we do have is the safety car, which was with a patch before the Baku race. The frequency of it coming out online is now much increased and much higher than it has been previously, so we do not be surprised if we see a safety car.
Yes, well, I have extremely high probability of a safety car at a track like Monaco, but I think I always think this track is half skill but also half mental as well, because the walls are so close. You can really get claustrophobic. You really have to not be intimidated by the walls and just push to the maximum, because anything less than that and you're going to lose so much time.
Yeah, as we've just seen Jaythorn trying to push to the maximum, doing an Aresi through to back and losing his front wing. And that's the two drivers I've gone on board with so far have both blown it at to back. So maybe I'll stop going on board with people through to back and then we might start seeing some better lap time. So let's go on board with Nervo Tank then. He's currently, again, one of the few not to set a lap time so far in this session. He's coming into the Nouvelle chicane now. He's got a bit of traffic in front of him. He's got his eye line a little bit. Takes an awful lot of curb on the inside. Let's see how he manages to take it back. How much is he going to push it? He's run very wide. He's in the wall a little bit on the outside, but I think that was a small enough tap that he's going to avoid any major front wing damage from that one. Again, he runs it very close to the wall on the exit of the swimming pool section, and through the double right-hander of Raskas and into the final corner. It's looked like a reasonably decent lap from Nervo as Jarno Racing goes across the line and sets provisional pole with a 7.6, 3/10 faster than everyone else who've been so close so far in this qualifying session. He has just gone and smashed everyone else as Williams Alex goes and does even better with a 7.5. These guys are flying at this point in the session.
Yeah, you can really tell who's starting to get a nice groove for this Monte Carlo circuit, and it's such a satisfying feeling when you get the setup right and then you put in a lap like that.
It really is. Like, nothing really comes close to the difficulty of Monaco in qualifying. You have to be so on it, otherwise you are just so far behind. Just a little bit of lacking commitment will put you way down the order. You have to be completely on the limit all of the time, as Michael clearly is through Raskas, locking the inside front and then pretty much drifting through every single corner. Let's see what Michael could do up to the line. He's currently down to P8. He's got Epic Gamer's time to beat. He moves himself up into P5, only about 2/10 off the leader. And again, it is very, very close up at the front. I think, no, Jarno is not on another lap, as Flying Finn picks up a 5-place grid penalty. That is an interesting one for a collision with Big C. Not sure how that's come about.
Well, yeah, the two Toro Rossos coming into contact. That's not going to be ideal for that particular team. So just looking at the tyres of the top 10 so far, interestingly, the best times in the top 5 Hypersofts, but Freak actually in P6, the highest Ultrasoft runner at the time being. But you may be able to show the viewers what tyres everybody is on if you display it there, Ali.
Yep. That is an interesting point actually about Freak. I'm not sure why he'd want to stay on the Ultras though. We discussed it before the race that we don't think there's really any strategy advantage to be gained from starting on the harder compound of tyre. Just track position is everything around this track, so giving it up for a tyre advantage doesn't really make so much sense to me, although there's still plenty of time left in this session for him to go out on a set of hypers, which I imagine we probably will see.
Yes, I think so. And Monaco is one of those tracks where the undercut and the overcut, if you know, certain cars get caught in traffic when they make their first stop, the overcut can actually be just as powerful as the undercut.
It's probably one of the few tracks on the calendar where that is the case, because if you come out on fresh tyres behind a car on older tyres, there's literally nothing you can do. You are just stuck there, and you're going to struggle to get past. You have to wait for them to pit, so you have to kind of wait for them to take it into their hands to get out of the way or pit or whatever, otherwise your race is pretty much done for, and your undercut can turn into a pretty much a disaster for your race, really.
Yes, I mean, just looking back at a historical example of that, I remember when David Coulthard was running really well at Monaco back in his McLaren days, and he got stuck behind an Arrows car for lap after lap, and he just completely ruined his race. So, you know, this is a track which is quite an equalizer in terms of pace. So someone who's going really slow can really have an effect on the outcome of the actual winning of the race.
And that is simply because it's just so difficult to overtake. There are almost no overtaking opportunities around this track. You have to be so close to the car in front and so much faster to be able to make a move. It's actually ridiculous. The number of times you'll just be sat behind someone for lap after lap because there's nowhere to get through is just a little bit crazy, really. As we're currently on board with Floris, he goes very wide at the Lowe's hairpin, which is not the line you want to be taking whatsoever. And he was, well, this lap's looked a little bit untidy so far. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. He's currently in P5 provisionally just behind his teammate, but I'm sure there is a lot more time to find out on these hyper soft tyres. He might even have time for another run in this session if he can get back to the pits quick enough. They look pretty decent through the Nouvelle chicane. Let's stay on board with him through to back. He is very aggressive and he hits the wall on the outside, and that is the end of his lap.
Yeah, a lot of drivers have been struggling with Tabak. Tabak's been a really vicious corner for the drivers so far. I've seen, well, it's at least double figures in terms of drivers hitting that section today. Just want to mention Yano Racing. He's running really well for Force India in P3 at the moment, just under 2/10 from Epic's time at the moment. He's about to start another flying lap.
A very impressive showing from the Force India driver, who, yeah, as you say, is just over a tenth away from pole position currently, but I'm sure that time is still there to find for him, as he, I believe he's on another flying lap here as he goes through the tunnel. I've missed the first part of his lap, but let's see how he copes with the second half there. Into the Nouvelle chicane. That looks pretty decent. Again, all of these drivers taking a huge amount of curb on the inside. I think, well, he might have got away with that one actually. Has he?
No, he didn't. No, race control have wiped that lap off.
I'm not surprised actually. That did look like 4 wheels off the track and some more after that one, so I'm not surprised that one has eventually been chalked off, and yes, he does indeed come back into the pits then. So let's go with Deagle Killer, our winner from Baku, I believe, and he came from way down the order and did a pretty much perfect race, and we saw another pretty much perfect race from him in Spain. That's not a particularly perfect line through the Nouvelle chicane though. Not really sure where he's going there, but we'll gloss over that bit.
Well, not the ultimate line for Deagle Killer there. But no, he crashed out in Australia, but you know, he's had 3 podiums in the last 4 races, and one of those being a victory at Baku and 2nd place in Spain. So he's only 2 points behind Michael in the tables. He's really putting a nice challenge together at the moment as he returns to the pits.
As NTG Freak does exactly the same thing, and it looks like everybody is just gearing up for their final runs in the session. We have just under 4 minutes remaining, and now we're seeing the likes of Michael and Epic Gamer come out for their final laps. And I believe that's Nardi who's just crossed the line and puts himself in P2 provisionally, and we now have 3 drivers currently sat on a 7.5, which again is just unbelievably close, but we still have several drivers to go out again. I don't believe Nardi's going to have time for another lap. He might just, if he gets back to the pits quickly, but the other guys we have to watch are Epic Gamer, who is currently out on an outlap. He's found himself in quite a lot of traffic with Curly in front of him, and something to note coming to this one actually is the fact that Curly is the only pad runner in this league, so he is at a significant disadvantage for this one. So don't be expecting miracles pace-wise for Curly, but that hasn't stopped him in the past. Even with a pace disadvantage, occasionally he's been able to pull off a crazy race, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him getting points in the end in what turns out to be a bit of a race of attrition, as Epic Gamer is doing some crazy tyre warming here. This is very, very extreme. So, seeing as that he is our provisional pole man, we'll ride on board with him for his entire lap as Danny has retired from the session down in P17. So, hardly an ideal qualifying session for him. But with about 2.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session, let's go on board with our provisional pole man, Epic Gamer, as he starts his final lap of this qualifying session through Sandevot. Hits the wall a little bit on the outside. That is not going to help his run up Beau Rivage one bit. But then into Massenet in the casino section. Let's see what he can do, taking a very, very wide line. But he's hit the wall on the inside. And that is the end of his lap. So, he might have one more shot, but he's just put so much pressure on himself for his final run now.
Yes, it was a terrible Sandevot, and the casino section was even worse. So, yeah, hopefully he didn't get any damage to it. He's got enough time to get around, and assuming he's got the fuel, he can go for another run. So it's not all over yet for Epic, assuming he didn't damage his whip.
Let's go on board with Michael then. He was slightly better through Sandevot than Epic Gamer was. He's currently down in P5. You probably want to be a little bit higher up come the end of this session, as Nervo has retired as well. As the pressure starts to mount coming to the end of this qualifying session, we're getting more and more retirements. Michael avoiding the curb on the inside at the Lowe's hairpin, interestingly. Locked the inside front a little bit, but otherwise this lap has looked pretty good right on the edge, but managing it pretty much perfectly. A little bit wide on the exit of Portier, getting a little bit of oversteer, and then through the tunnel, keeping it pretty much flat, well, obviously completely flat out through there, and then into the Nouvelle chicane. Not taking quite as much curve as some of the other drivers we've been seeing, and plants the throttle reasonably well on the exit. We now have 1.5 minutes remaining as he hits the wall on the exit of Tabac, as pretty much everybody has done so far at some point in the session, and I think that is going to be it for Michael in this session.
Oh, that was a sturdy suspension on that McLaren, because that was quite a hit. I'm surprised he didn't rip his tyre off there, but yeah, that's it, game over. Michael is not going to be on the front row, so that could have quite an effect on the championship, especially with Eagle, who's on an outlap. And he should get around in time. If he can get ahead of Michael a few positions, that could have an effect on the championship.
It could indeed. Deagle only 2 points behind Michael in the championship, so he could potentially take the lead by the end of this race. We'll have to wait and see how tonight's proceedings go out. But let's go back with Epic Gamer then. We saw him mess up his first run on this set of tyres, and he's hit the wall again at the Nouvelle chicane, and he's going to get in the way of Aresi as well. It's a nightmare end to this qualifying session for Epic Gamer, and he's got a 5-place grid penalty for that collision with Aresi. Oh, and it's all gone wrong for Epic Gamer. That is going to cost him severely in this race.
Oh, and there's Freak.
Oh wow, Freak takes pole position as well with a 7-3. So, just to compile Epic Gamer's misery, NTG Freak steals pole position at the death. Let's see what everyone else can do though. Is Nardi on a lap? I don't believe he is. So let's go and find somebody else who's on a lap. Big C isn't, but he moves himself up into P6 impressively ahead of our championship leader. He's a bit of a Monaco master, or has been in the past, definitely. Let's go on board with AliK then. He is definitely not on a lap. Let's go with Deagle Killer, who appears to be one of the few drivers still pushing at this point. The checkered flag is now out. This is everybody's last chance. The man who currently sits P2 in this championship, he needs to get a little bit higher up than P10 if he wants to get himself on the podium once again this race. So, through to back, how much risk is he going to take? A big one. He slams the wall on the outside, but I think somehow he's managed to get away with that one. So, through the swimming pool, again he hits the wall on the outside, but he's pushing the limits and some, but he's managed to keep it somehow facing in the right direction. It's been a very ragged lap right on the limit and up to the line. Let's see where it is for Deagle Killer. I can't imagine it's going to be pole position with that lap, and it isn't. It is P6, but that is still a decent enough result for him, and he can still have a decent race from there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, crucially, there's a few places up the road from Deagle. There's not many people out there left. I think Flying Finn's one of the last who could have run in J4 as well. So Finn's near the end of the lap. Oh, lovely line through the swimming pool section, just about as he slowed down. So this could be a top 10 time for Finn right now.
So as he comes through the final corner, what is it going to be for the second Toro Rosso? Flying Finn, that's a very poor exit out the final corner, all over the curve on the outside, and it's only 15th. He doesn't manage to improve in the Toro Rosso, interestingly. No,
not at all. It's got Big C outperforming him significantly, 7 tenths the gap between the two Toro Rossos. But I have to say that's quite a mixed up grid with all the penalties we're going to get. A brilliant qualifying session for Freak, but also the Williams team of Nardi and Alex.
Yeah, definitely. Williams way up the order. We've seen Nardi certainly be a little bit inconsistent so far this season, but that is definitely a step in the right direction. P3 at Monaco is a pretty damn good place to start, and he's not far off the pole time whatsoever. I remember back in season 13, he was one of the 3 drivers who spent the entire race fighting for victory in what was a dry to wet race. I believe we're going to have an entirely dry race this time around though, so he'll have to do it with pure pace and overtaking skill starting from P3, but he's still got a decent enough chance to win this one.
Yes, I think so, but I think some of these drivers are going to have to do tobacco a little better. Otherwise, I think the wing department are going to run out by about lap 10.
And the safety car driver might be needing a pay rise as well after that.
Absolutely.
Might be a little bit busy tonight. So there is your provisional grid then. Is NTG Freak on pole position with Epic Gamer in P2, but with a 5-place grid penalty, which is going to decimate his qualifying position. Then come the two Williams of Nardi and Alex, who are going to be bumped up one position each, I believe, with then Jarno in P5, Deagle Killer P6, Flores P7, Big C P8, Michael P9, and Alex rounding out the top 10.
Yes, and Flying Finn getting a 5 grid plus penalty as well for a collision with Big C. We didn't see what happened between them, but yeah, Epic will be kicking himself. I mean, it was a mistake at the chicane. I think he was a bit unlucky, really, to get that penalty. But you know, the Force India had nowhere to go. He was already right behind him after he did the spin.
Yeah, it was definitely a very unfortunate sequence of events. He made an honest mistake, and then unfortunately for him, there's a Force India coming at racing speed the other direction, and there is literally no time for him to react and nowhere for him to go either. So very, very unfortunate for him that one tiny mistake turning in slightly too early for that chicane has cost him so dearly in this race.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be a very interesting race. I'm looking forward to this a lot. This is always the track I enjoy racing on. Some people are intimidated by it, but you can't. You need to just go in there, treat it as a normal race, and if you get to the end, you will get a good result.
Yeah, I think if you can survive the entire race without picking up front wing damage, you're definitely going to be reaping the rewards of being a consistent driver as you kind of carnage breaks loose around you. You've seen that in the past. Sometimes being slow and steady and keeping it out the wall is better than being a little bit faster but sticking it in the wall every other lap and losing your front wing, because you can't afford to make an extra pit stop round here at all. Losing time, losing track position is just disastrous for your race. So one tiny mistake and that can cost you a huge number of positions.
Okay. Well, the tyre wear is quite kind at this track, so there is really no reason to do a two-stop strategy here. You know, whatever compound you pick, doing a one-stop rather should be fairly simple for these drivers.
It should certainly be simple, regardless of what tyres you start on. As interestingly, outside the top 10, the first man with free tyre choice, Veloce Oli D, who's had another not particularly special qualifying, but he's the first man with free tyre choice. And he's starting on these super soft tyres, which is definitely an interesting one. And it will mean he probably has clear air for a lot of the race, which could be quite a big factor. And then he can go on a charge on a set of either hypersofts or ultra softs at the end of the race, which is definitely going to be interesting as we come into the latter stages.
Yes, agree with that. I mean, there's literally no point being on the hypersofts to start the race if you're outside the top 10. You've got to try something different. You've got to hope that those on the hypersofts, when they pit, they'll get caught in traffic and then use the overcut that we mentioned earlier to gain some positions down the line when you make your eventual pit stop.
It's definitely going to throw a bit of strategic variation in there that we don't often see around Monaco. People starting on different tyres will definitely add another dynamic into the race, because the hypersofts, although they will probably last a decent amount into this race, if you overheat them slightly, they are pretty much dead for the rest of the stint, and there's very little you can do to get them back because they are so sensitive, because they're so soft. So, again, there's actually quite a lot of interesting differences you can see in the strategy here.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
So, as everybody lines up into their grid slots, then a couple of guys not even making it around the formation lap, which is, I have to say, not a particularly good sign for the race, but let's see what's about to unfold then. So we have the Mercedes of NTG Freak, who's currently in P3 in the championship, with the two Williams of Nardi and Alex directly behind him. We are all set for an awesome race around Monaco. As per usual, who knows what kind of drama is going to unfold. So here we go then. We are ready to go racing in Monaco. We are revving up to 5 red lights for the Monaco Grand Prix. It is lights out and away we go. Let's see what Freak can do off pole position in the Mercedes. Can he manage to stay ahead into turn 1? He has managed to keep the lead ahead of the two Williams cars. There's a Force India going side by side. Deagle has managed to get past Jarno Racing. They're going side by side up the hill into the casino section. There's contact between them both. They're both in the wall. They have both lost huge amounts of front wing, and their race has already taken a bad turn for the worse. And let's see if they can actually keep it facing the right direction. It's getting very, very busy. They're going to cause a huge train with that wing damage.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, that's already their races, and that's going to be good news for the top 3, because with Deagle, no downforce on a high downforce track like this, the top 3 are going to gallop away from the rest until those guys pit.
And Alex, Nardi and Freak have a huge opportunity to build a massive lead at this point in this race, as we already have a retirement in this race. RC Alonso is gone before we're even halfway through lap 1, so this Force India and this Red Bull are going to be sitting ducks pretty much. There is a huge train behind them. They almost turning the Lowe's hairpin into a car park on lap 1. It was so busy with so many cars going so slowly, as Deagle is in the wall at pretty much every opportunity. And that his race has taken a horrible turn for the worse before it even started, really. It was kind of hard to see what exactly went wrong because I was given such a weird camera angle by the game. So both Jarno and Deagle come into the pits, but it's too late really for the guys behind us. The leaders have already got away.
Yes, I mean, look at the gap. 5.3 seconds, Flores behind Alex, just because getting caught on the traffic. Jarno and Deagle are actually the only two who got wing damage on the first lap, unless some of the others are just trying to nurse it through to the first pit stop. But absolute disaster for Deagle. He was ahead of his championship rival on the grid, but the first lap's compromised, and that's really good news for Michael.
So the top 3 is as you were then, with the gap between Nardi and Freak just under a second. So Nardi applying plenty of pressure to Freak, so when we have DRS, Nardi will be able to utilise that and maybe gain some kind of advantage from that, although overtaking I think is going to be another matter. And then the train behind is 5 seconds behind P3. They have lost so much time purely because of one incident between Jarno and Deagle, which is going to have huge ramifications for the rest of this race, and I'm sure Epic Gamer will be ruining that qualifying mistake even more so now as he finds himself way behind the leaders.
And I've already seen Nardi hitting the outside wall to back. He's not going to be able to get away with that too many more times, and Epic Gamer tapping to back as well. So they're really pushing hard, but it's not going to take much to find the ultimate limit and put themselves out of the race the way they're going.
As Nardi already has a 3-second time penalty on lap 3, that is not good at all for him and is certainly going to compromise his race, as I think that was Epic Gamer in the wall slightly on the exit of Sandoval, which again is probably going to compromise him a little bit as well. So let's ride on board with him as he follows Flores, who is the lead McLaren in this race, up in P4. Epic Gamer giving the wall on the inside of Casino plenty of space. That wall is absolutely vicious. You tap that going at racing speed and your front right tyre is gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Williams Nervo is in a bit of trouble. He's picked up right front damage on his wing, and he's got a massive queue of cars behind him in P11. So he's going to be coming into the pits, but that's costing the likes of Aresi, Danny, Jay Fawn and Flying Finn an absolute bucket load of time.
And I can't imagine Nervo being the driver to be passive and let people through either, so these guys are going to be stuck behind him for the rest of the lap as Aresi is right behind Nervo. Two rivals from the past really find themselves way down the order here in P11 and P12, not even fighting for any points, and Aresi, well, Nervo's not doing his old friend Aresi any favours whatsoever, as he's under all kinds of pressure from the Haas behind, and now all of these guys are under huge pressure from each other, as Nervo is so slow on the exit of the swimming pool. He's going to be under so much pressure through Rasgas, as Car Alex is into the pits, interestingly. He has already decided that he wants to come in for a set of super soft tyres, which is very interesting. I didn't see any front wing or anything, so that looked like a purely tactical pit stop.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. No wheel change for the Ferrari driver, so looking to go for a long second stint. That may pay dividends later on, but I'll be amazed if we don't have any more retirements the way it's going. But yeah, no, Freak is doing a great job out front so far, looking nice and smooth out front. As
Alex has already managed to pick up a corner cutting penalty, and because it's a 5-second stop go, I imagine that's probably from the exit of the pit lane, which is often a little bit strange on these games. It's very harsh. If you cross the white line slightly on the exit, it will penalise you very quickly and take any opportunity to slap a penalty on you. So I'd imagine he probably won't have actually done much to deserve that 5-second penalty, and we'll see what the stewards have to say about that one come the end of this race. So as you're about to start lap 5 then, it's still NTG Freak in the Mercedes with an advantage of 1.5 seconds from Williams Nardi in P2 and the second Williams of Alex in P3, and then we have this almighty train for P4, which is currently 6 seconds behind the cars in front, as Big C and Tim Palm also come into the pits. So again, these guys are making purely tactical pit stops on lap 5 of this race, and the Super Soft should be able to go to the end. We've seen it work in the past when the one that springs to mind most prominently is Simo from, or Simo, can't remember how you say his name, from season 14, who pitted very early on from the midfield and ended up winning the race because nobody actually realised he'd pitted and was in the fight for the lead. So he pitted loads of laps earlier than everyone else, and it ended up paying dividends for him. So I wonder if we'll see more of the same today.
I think we will, but the super soft tyres really last a very long time. I mean, you can go from this early to the race, obviously do a little bit of management, but Flores is under a lot of pressure. there are some asking to have a look at the tyres, so if you want to put those up on the screen for the guys watching. But yeah, Flores really struggling with rear traction, and that's allowing Epic to put him under all sorts of pressure. I think possibly Flores has damage on the left side of the wing as well.
Yeah, he has been in the wall a little bit so far in this race, so I wouldn't be surprised that is the case. He's in the wall again on the exit of the swimming pool section, and he's going very slowly into Raskas, and that has cost Epic Gamer, who's picked up front wing damage, and his evening goes from bad to worse after a dreadful qualifying mistake. He's run into the back of Flores, but that didn't look like any fault of his own. Flores was going very, very slowly into Raskas for no real reason, and that is going to cost Epic Gamer dearly now as he's still sat in the pit box picking up a new front wing.
Oh, I think Epic Gamer's going to get stuck in the pits. His car's not doing anything. Oh no, there you go. He's on his way. It's just a glitch, but yeah, absolute disaster. That one mistake in qualifying has put him into that position where he wouldn't have been if he was on the front row.
Certainly, and that one mistake has cost him so much. 5-place grid penalty for that was very, very harsh, and that has cost him hugely in this race. And someone else who's being cost dearly in this race is Michael, who's currently behind his McLaren teammate, who we believe to have front wing damage, or he's going very slowly at least. And now finally Michael goes down the inside into the Nouvelle chicane, and he manages to make that move, and Flores doesn't really fight it, because I have a feeling Flores' car is not really in the best shape at the moment, and that does give Michael priority in the pit stop, so he can come into the pits this lap should he desire and not have Flores to worry about as well. But interestingly in this race, Veloce Oli D, who started on the super soft tyres in P11, is now up into P5 on the super softs. That is very, very interesting.
He's had a fine race so far, Ollie D, and yeah, that was definitely team orders from McLaren.
Yeah.
It was a very simple swap, and no, actually, no wing damage for Flores actually. Although he's on the super softs, so he's going to go to the end of the race. But now he's behind Eagle actually, funnily enough.
That is very interesting, and it looks like Flores might have just blown up his tyres and overheated them way too much. Apparently he is kind of known for that, so I believe that might be what we've seen, and that was why he was going so slowly and he wasn't really able to fight anyone. His car did look, in all fairness, completely undrivable when he was in front of Epic Gamer, so that might be why the Haas car ended up steaming into the back of him and losing his front wing. But Epic Gamer's race is now almost down the drain. He is so far down the order through, well, very little fault of his own. He only made tiny mistakes, but it's cost him so much in this race. As always with Monaco, the slightest mistake destroys your race.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the leaders, they'll be keeping an eye on this. What they don't want to do, they do not want to get caught up in the battle for P6, because Aresi is going far slower than the cars behind him. So if any of the leaders pit too early and end up behind this train, then that can cost them a podium, I think, because they're on the Aresi, Danny, etc. They're on the super source. They'll be going for a while yet before they pit.
Let's have a look at the gap to the leader then. So Aresi's train is 23 seconds behind NTG Freak. I'm not entirely sure how much time exactly you lose from a pit stop, but it must be about that. So I would assume it's pretty much touch and go now between whether the leaders can come out ahead of or behind Aresi, which could make or break their races really. So I imagine the leaders will probably want to stay out a lap or two more just to try and build that gap as much as possible before they risk coming out in that train, because that could be the end of your race really. You would not want to be stuck in a midfield train here of all places.
Yes, I mean, the likes of Big C, Deagle, Flores and Michael, they're catching up to Curly, Finn, J4, Danny and Aresi. So Michael has pitted earlier than the leaders, but he's not going to get much of an undercut if he catches up to these guys, because they're lapping about, Aresi, etc., they're lapping about a second and a half slower than the likes of Big C and Deagle behind.
And Aresi is falling behind the leaders a bit more now as well. He's now 24, almost 25 seconds behind the leaders, so I think they're probably not under too much threat from coming out in that train, actually thinking about it, as Flores picks up a 3-second time penalty, and he's also managed to get back ahead of his McLaren teammate, interestingly, despite...
Oh, wait a minute though, Nardi just getting out in front of that train. Oh, that was mightily close.
Let's go and have a look at that then. That's Nardi just getting out in front, as that's Aresi under pressure from Danny in the Haas, who goes all the way around the outside at Massenet and Casino. That was some move.
That was a great move from the Haas driver. Well, I think he finally got fed up getting stuck behind Aresi and got the move done. So brilliant work from the Haas driver, and I'm sure he will blast off into the distance from that force. And now flying Finn and J4 and they're stuck behind Aresi.
as Flying Finn actually made a very nice move into Mirabeau, and then down the inside at the Lowe's hairpin, he managed to make that one stick very nicely on the Sauber of Jaythorn. That's moved him up position, but now he has the roadblock of Aresi to try and contend with, which might be another masser, I have to say, as Danny, after that move, goes and picks up a 3-second time penalty, which is not going to do his race any favours. As we're riding with Big C, I think he's done wonders for his net position there, pitting very early, I think it was lap 4 or 5, for the super soft tyres, and he's put himself up ahead of almost all of the leaders who he was fighting with, so I think he might be in a net P4 or 5 if everything stays the way it is.
Yes, well, I think so, but Nardi has actually undercut Alex to get ahead of his teammate.
Wow. So the Williams have swapped positions, much like Ferrari in real life in 2017. The Williams have swapped positions in the pit stop, so Nardi is, yeah, up into net P2.
Exactly. Well, Freak pitted as well, and he's just under a second behind Ollie D. So I don't think. Oh my goodness, Aresi and Flying Finn getting so close into the hairpin, and look at this train now developing behind the Force India driver.
Yeah, Aresi is holding up about half the field there. That is really quite impressive. As the two Mercedes actually out front have come together, and they are now right behind each other, with Freak having already pitted in this race with a significant lead over pretty much everybody else in the field, has now come up behind his teammate who has not pitted yet and is currently holding him up through this section, but I imagine he will probably move out of the way on this main straight. He's just waiting for a decent opportunity to do so, so we'll wait and see if Ollie does indeed let his teammate through, and he does. I believe he is going to comply. Yeah, he moves over to the left hand side and Freak regains the lead of this race, but Ollie quietly, he's having a very nice race here.
He's having a really good race, and if Aresi keeps holding back the likes
Yes.
of Big C, the Eagle, Flores and Michael, he could still be in contention for a top 5 position as well, and maybe even a podium, considering the penalties that the Williams drivers seem to keep picking up.
Yeah, staying out of this train seems to be the way to be successful in this race, as now Aresi's under pressure again into Massenet. The Toro Rosso trying to go all the way around the outside. Is he going to try and stick it down the inside into Casino? He is. They make a little bit of contact. Aresi's in the wall. They are still going to be side by side into Mirabeau, and this time Flying Finn makes it stick. What a move from the young Toro Rosso driver. He's made 2 moves in a very short space of time, and it looks like in this race he is really pulling things together. We've seen in the past in this season his race pace hasn't quite been on the same level as his quali pace, but he's making his way through the field very effectively here.
Now that was a lovely move from Flying Finn, and look already, he's almost a second ahead. Now Jay Fawn's up next to try and get past the 14 job, but look now, Big C, Eagle, Flores, Michael, they're all there. Getting caught up in an M25 traffic jam here must be mightily frustrating when you don't have the track position you want.
Yeah, these guys are going to be cursing their luck, because up until now it looked like their early pit stop was going to pay dividends, but now they are stuck behind a very slow moving train, and there are so many cars right up there that it's going to be very difficult to overtake any of them, as Big C is so close to the back of Curly. Can he do anything into Sandoval? Not really, because everybody in this train has DRS, as I believe that is Aresi going side by side with Jaythorn into turn 1, and Jaythorn moves down the inside of the Force India, who is losing so many positions here. You rarely see people getting overtaken at Monaco, but he's been overtaken about 3 times in as many laps, so he is really, really struggling at this point in the race. But Curly, the only pad driver, is doing a good job here as Aresi flies into the wall, has a huge amount of oversteer on the exit of the casino section, and he really is all over the place at this point.
Yes, well, Aresi didn't actually quite hit the wall. He actually saved himself from hitting the wall. But yeah, I think the proverbial cork has been popped here, and I think he's just going to lose place after place. But yeah, Curly, the only pad driver in P9, he's doing a great job holding back some of the wheel drivers behind.
And he might even be making a move on a wheel driver here as we go through the Nouvelle Chicane on lap 12 here. He is right on the back of Aresi, who is going so slowly compared to everybody else. He is causing such a problem for all of these leaders, and there's literally nothing that they can do about it. They just have to let the midfield guys scrap it out and see if they can pick up any scraps and make an opportunistic move somewhere. Otherwise, their race is going down the drain very, very quickly. Aresi stays out again, and just look how many cars are behind him. There are so many cars in this train. As carbon fibre went flying there from someone. Couldn't quite see who that was. It might have been one of the McLarens in the wall that I couldn't quite see.
I'm just having a look at the McLaren, see if anyone's got damaged. No, it's Flores. Wait, hang on. Who is it? I think it's Flores, actually. He's got damage on the right-hand side.
Yeah, Flores' race, not the greatest, I have to say, up until this point. Overheated his tyres in the first stint, or at least that's what we believe happened, and then he's just hit the wall again, which is going to cause him all kinds of problems, because this stint has got to last till the end of the race, so the fact that he's got wing damage this early on really is going to hamper him in a lot in this race, or at least for the remainder of it, as this train grows and grows and grows because nobody can get past Aresi, and even Curly is sat directly behind him, just unable to do anything at all.
Oh, it might be moving to Nouvelle Chicane.
Down the inside, and they make a little bit of contact. Aresi skips over the inside of the chicane, which is slightly illegal, so I imagine he'll probably let the Ferrari through into Tabak, and Curly makes a move. He just hit the wall on the outside, a little bit of Tabak, but he has survived up until this point, so let's see what Big C can do to try and follow him through, and all of these guys have already pitted in this race. Aresi has not. Big C down the inside into Raskas, cannot make that one stick at all. That was a very risky move, but I think he's got to try and take risk at this point in the race. He can just see there's a good result slipping away from him by being sat behind this Force India. He's doing everything in his power to try and get past him, but that one didn't quite work.
Yeah, Flying Finn in the pit for wing damage, so he's down to P17. Just to compare the lap times, not this lap, the previous one, Ollie did a 1:12.773, Aresi a 1:15.103. So that just shows you how much time that some of these cars have been losing behind the Force India. But it's made it entertaining for us, that's for sure.
Certainly, we've actually been seeing overtakes, which is a bit of a rarity around Monaco, as Big C, in all that, managed to slip past Aresi into Massenet with what turned out to be a fairly simple move in the end, because Aresi is just struggling so much in this race. For whatever reason, he is just so slow, and it's really bizarre to see just how little pace he has, seeing as we know how much pedigree he's got as a driver. It's just not working out for him at all this evening.
No, it's not working out for him at all. But yeah, I think any chance Michael had of getting onto the podium, I think, is slipping away lap by lap. I'm surprised the two McLarens haven't swapped, because Flores has heavy damage on the right side of his car. Aresi's just really struggling for sort of rear traction. Maybe he's running a bit too much ballast, I'm not sure. But it's just that he hasn't got any damage on his front wing. He just doesn't seem to be able to put the power down at all.
Yeah, I think he might have overheated his tyres or something like that, because he's just struggling so much. And now Dielke is the next guy to come right up to the back of that Force India. Is he going to go defensive into the Massenet? He is. He's moving all over the place. He moved several times in the braking zone there. And Dielke got very close to the wall. Not sure whether he would have got wing damage from that, but pretty aggressive from Aresi there.
Very aggressive defending from Aresi, a man who's certainly under a lot of frustration at the moment, because he's just not had the pace here today.
No, not at all. He's causing the leaders all kinds of problems, as Dielke's already lost almost 2 seconds to Big C, who's managed to clear Aresi, but is now stuck behind Curly. So we've got another car to overtake who is yet to pit in this race, who's on super soft tyres that they started on. So Big C's got to try and clear him as quickly as possible, as Dielke, yeah, likewise, is still sat behind Aresi, and you can see, like Big C could earlier, a good result slipping away from him, as we have yellow flags in Sector 2.
It is Tim Palm, who went off just before the Nouvelle Chicane.
And he's a little bit behind that Aresi train. And talking about the Aresi train, the guy who's right at the back of it is Epic Gamer in the Haas, who will be cursing his luck in this race. It's all gone wrong, and he now finds himself marooned down in P14.
Yeah, and there's literally nothing he can do. He's just going to have to take it out. Oh, here comes Eagle again. Oh, squeeze goal, contact. Aresi's round.
Oh dear, it's all gone wrong for Aresi as he slams into the wall as well. I didn't quite catch what happened there, but we caught the aftermath, and Aresi trying to spin around. And, well, I'm sure you never like to see anyone crash, but a lot of the guys in that train will be very glad to see the back of that Force India.
That's one way of getting rid of the roadblock, but yeah, I don't think there was a move on there for Dielke to make a move there. I think that was, it was halfway up towards Casino Square. Aresi, there wasn't really a gap for Dielke to get into, and he just sort of spun the Force India around, but, who knows. But yeah, Big C putting Curly under a ton of pressure, clearly has more pace in the Ferrari, but as I say, it's still very hard to pass here, despite the fact we have seen a lot of overtakes here.
As whilst all of this has been going on, NTG Freak has just been driving away from the rest of the field with a bit of a masterclass out front, as his Mercedes teammate, Veloci Oli D, is doing an absolute job holding up Nardi behind him, who was the next guy fighting for the lead. He's currently 2/10 behind the second Mercedes. Let's see if he can do anything about him. No, not quite, and he's going to sit behind him for another lap. Oli D yet to pit in this race. He's on the super soft that he started this race on, as Nardi picks up another 3-second time penalty, and I believe that takes him up to 6 seconds now, which is going to really hamper his race.
Yes, well, at the moment he's not going to finish on the podium, although Ollie, of course, has to pit soon. While this has all been going on, the two McLarens have swapped. I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner, but Michael is now ahead of Flores.
Yeah, Michael's race has hardly been ideal either. I think coming out on that train has really hampered him just as much as everybody else really, and their races have almost been thrown in the bin through no fault of their own. Just a slight strategic mishap put them behind Aresi, and that's ruined the races of, well, several people here really. And yeah, freaking Ollie and Nadi and Alex are just so far in front of everyone else. It's a little bit ridiculous how big a splits we have in the field at the moment. And you've got to say, up until this point, NTG Freak has been absolutely faultless. He's just been driving away from everyone else, keeping it out of the wall, which is one of the most important things about this track. And he's been doing pretty well at it.
It's been a phenomenal drive from the Mercedes drive so far, and a great team effort as well, because Ollie's doing a fantastic job holding the Williams cars back, and it's just making Freak's day incredibly easy. Although there's a long way to go. Yeah, we've got only 18 laps. Oh, Big C getting a spin of oversteer out of the opening corner, and Flores turned into them the sound of actually, and he's now back down to P14, so he's lost his wing entirely.
Oh dear. Flores' race going from bad to worse, and he's now well down the order as Nerva retires from the session. And let's see if this potentially brings out a safety car, because this could be absolutely massive if we get a safety car here. We're waiting, still waiting, and I think we might be alright. So, no safety car at this point. We'll have to wait for someone else to retire.
Yeah, so Williams and Nervo losing control of the car at the end of the twin ball section and retiring from the race. So that's 3 retirements, which after 19 laps isn't actually that bad.
I think Aresi as well might have just given up rather than retired from hitting a wall somewhere, because yeah, his race, I have to say, was not looking particularly bright at that point when he lost his front wing, as Big C appears to be struggling a little bit with his rear tyres. From riding on board with him, the car does not seem particularly stable, so potentially by being sat behind Curly for so many laps, he might have overheated his tyres, just taking them out of the temperature window that they operate best at, and now he's really struggling behind that Ferrari. Yeah,
and he's got the top 2 in the championship right behind him as well for a good measure. So Deagle at the moment will be, getting a bit of extra points towards, he'll cut the gap to 1 point at distance to Michael, because Michael's right behind him. So Michael will be aiming more than anything else to get past Deagle.
Yeah, the man behind you in the championship is always the one that you want to be focusing on, but whilst those two are marooned down in P9 and P10, the other man fighting for the championship is NTG Freak, up in the lead by 13 seconds, so he's going to be picking up just a little bit of a points advantage at this point, as Michael just slams into the wall on the exit of Portier. I think I caught that on the back of the shot of the spectator cameras. I think Deagle might be having a look at Big C as well. No, not quite, and now Curly's become Aresi's replacement. It's causing all kinds of problems with this train. There are so many cars behind him, and again, this looks like it's going to get very interesting.
Oh, and indeed, and yeah, Big C he caught up Curly so quickly. Oh, and he hits the wall. I think he might. No, I think he got away with that. But yeah, he's just in the dirty air. That Ferrari's just unable to get quite close enough to make a move.
I think he really has destroyed his tyres. There is no way he should be that far behind Curly or under that much pressure from Deagle Killer, considering how similar their tyres are. So the fact that he's really struggling to keep up with him would imply to me that he's really struggling with his tyres in this race. As Epic Gamer is very close to Alex as well. He looks down the inside into Massenet. He's going to have the outside for Casino. Can he make this one stick? They make a little bit of contact, but Epic Gamer looks like he's through around the outside. Now the outside for Mirabeau. That's not really where you want to be. Alex is going to squeeze him right out to the wall. He's going to have the inside for the Lowe's hairpin, though. He's down the inside. They're making a little bit of contact. Epic Gamer mounts the curb hugely, picks up a 3-second time penalty, and that looked like it might have been a little bit of a legal overtake, but they are still going side by side. Epic Gamer is going to have a cutback here. Can he get past? He's very sideways on the exit of Portier. These guys are getting so close so far in this lap. Ali's going defensive into the Nouvelle chicane. He's run very wide. Oh, and Epic Gamer must be cursing his luck stuck behind Alex here. He's just been a complete roadblock for him, and he's unable to get through again.
That was more go-karting than Formula 1. The amount of times they were bumping into each other there. But yeah, it's been a real race to forget for Epic Gamer. I mean, the session started with so much promised, but it's just gone horribly wrong for him so far, and that just summed it up really, that little battle of Alex.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out for him at all so far, as Big C is so slow through turn 1. He drifted through there completely. His tyres have completely gone, and now the Red Bull is directly behind him and putting him under all kinds of pressure. He cannot even close up to Curly, who is the only pad runner in this league, and he's the only man who's going to have a significant pace disadvantage even before we even get into the race. So the fact that he can't get close to him is a little bit alarming for the Toro Rosso, and probably means that his pace in this race is not really where it should be.
Yes, I mean the Superstars will go a very long time with because these guys are battling so much, they're really putting it in jeopardy for them to actually reach the end of the race without having to make another stop.
They are indeed, as Ollie D on his super soft tyres comes into the pits after 22 laps of this Monaco Grand Prix, and finally, at long last, releases Williams Nardi, who finds himself 15 seconds behind the leader. MTG Freak has been so dominant today. It's been an unbelievable drive. I don't think I've ever seen such a dominant drive in this league. He is flying away from the rest of the field, but around Monaco, the tiny lapse of concentration and you can find yourself in a wall, so we've still got to concentrate as much as possible, otherwise he could be bottling this quite spectacularly, but I would imagine he's probably going to take this from here. It would take something quite special for him to lose this one.
Indeed. Well, Ollie D, his strategy nearly worked out, but actually Deagle, Big C and Curly got in front of him. He's going to have such fresher tyres, so he can try and get some overtakes, some flying finishes out of the race. He just got out ahead of Michael, which will please Deagle, of course, because he's now to one car between himself and his championship rival. But yeah, it is going perfectly for Freak here today so far.
So Ollie on a fresh set of ultra soft tyres, but he has 3 cars to overtake before he can get any kind of clear air and start pushing as much as he would like. But if he can overtake these guys and use his pace advantage, that's going to put him way up the order. He looks down the inside into the Nouvelle chicane. Deagle is a little bit wide, but there was no way through whatsoever there for Ollie, and Deagle manages to defend reasonably effectively. But because Ollie's on a softer compound of tyres, he's got to make the most of them quickly while he's sat behind these guys, otherwise they will quickly get out of their temperature window and overheat because they're softer, because they're that much more sensitive. So he's got to get past quickly, otherwise his strategy is going to be out the window.
Yeah, Ollie is a wolf among the sheep right now, but can he actually devour these cars and get ahead of these? Because if he can get ahead of these 3 cars, he might be able to chase down the likes of Danny, who will be going so slowly at the end of the race on those really old super softs, but it's going to be easier said than done at a track like this.
Let's see if he sends it down the inside. Mr. Massenet, he has a little bit of a look, but Deagle still seems to have pretty decent pace on those super softs. He definitely seems to have kept them in a little bit of a better state than Big C. But is Ollie going to look down the inside into Mirabeau? He is. Deagle's very late on the brakes, but so is Ollie. Can he make this one stick into the Lowe's hairpin? They are going to be side by side. Ollie on the outside. If he could pull this one off around the outside of the Lowe's hairpin, that would be quite a move. And he does. Brilliant. And he's
Absolutely.
up into P7 with a stunning move.
Absolutely brilliant, but that just shows you the value of fresh traction. I mean, that's the only way that move could have worked. He just used the traction to its full extent and was able to get past Eagle despite his extremely stiff defending. And I think Big C, based on that, may not have a prayer defending from that Mercedes behind.
And don't forget, you can vote for your driver of the day. And for me, Ollie would definitely be my driver of the day so far, coming from P11 to pushing all of these guys who were up in the net lead, or the net leaders at some point in this race. And he's so close to Big C through the final corner. If he can nail the traction here, surely he's going to be nailed on for a move into turn 1. Now, Big C's still got DRS from Curly in front, so I think Ollie's going to have to sit behind for another corner at least. But if he can maximise the traction out of turn 1, maybe he could have a look into Massenet. No, not quite. I don't think he's quite close enough. We'll stay on board with him though, as he's still following that Toro Rosso, who is struggling quite a lot in this race. He is so close behind him. And to see if he can pull off the same move that he did to Deagle the lap earlier. He's down the inside again into Mirabeau. They make a little bit of contact. Big C's almost in the wall on the outside. Can he carry it around the outside of the Lowe's hairpin? Again, they make a little bit of contact. They make more contact. Oh, and they're in the wall. No. And Ollie's lost front wing, surely. And he's going to have to do a 3-point turn to get out of there. Oh dear, and it's all gone wrong for Ollie D as he tries to go around the outside of the Lowe's hairpin. Big C was not having any of it. And unfortunately, it's not gone well for Ollie whatsoever.
No, I think Big C was like, no, you're not coming through whatever happens. And yeah, he just ploughed him into the wall. That was a Gandalf, you shall not pass moment. And yeah, that's the end of Ollie's race, and probably Big C's as well, because they both got wing damage.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for the pair of them, but I'm sure Deagle will be very happy to see the back of both of those guys, actually. And now he can properly apply the pressure to Curly, who is still on that same set. Is he still on that same set of tyres that he started the race on, or has Curly already pitted? Let's have a little look. No, Curly hasn't pitted. But Curly hasn't pitted, so he's still on that same set of supers. But because everybody else behind him pitted so early on in this race, the difference in tyre life is very marginal. So it probably doesn't make that much of a difference at all.
No, not at all. But I have to say, Curly, you know, he's at a massive disadvantage on the pad. He's had a really solid first stint. He's held you know, some really faster drivers behind for so many laps. And even though he probably won't finish in the points, although who knows with all the incidents we're getting, it's still been a fine drive for someone who sits massively handicapped because of being on the pad against the wheel at a track like this.
I think Curly might just be praying for a safety car at this point, just praying that something happens to give him a bit of luck in this race. And Deagle doesn't go for a move into the Nouvelle chicane, even though he looked pretty close there, as Curly picks up a 3-second time penalty, as we've seen so many people do in this race. And I think, again, unfortunately, that's going to hamper him quite a lot in the results. He's very wide through the swimming pool section, and now the Red Bull is all over the back of the Ferrari. Let's see what he can do into Raskas. He doesn't look for the inside. He's going to try and take as wide a line as possible, and Curly finally, on lap 26, comes into the pits for a fresh set of tyres. He has done a fantastic job on that set of Super Soft. He has managed that stint perfectly and finally comes into the pits. And now Deagle, at long last, can have some clean air.
Yeah, it's probably been a long time that he's had that. Actually, interestingly, it looks like Ollie didn't get heavy wing damage from that contact at the hairpin. Big C obviously did, because he didn't pit lane for replacing wing and ultra soft tyres. But yeah, I'm surprised Ollie didn't get heavy damage there, but he's carrying on.
I believe his pace seems to be alright. I mean, riding on board with him now, and he doesn't seem to be massively affected by it. The car looks alright, it seems alright, as we have another yellow flag in Sector 1. Are we going to see another retirement? No, it was only momentary. So, the yellow flags are gone, and yeah, Ollie's close to second in that sector alone, so his tyres and his pace is still there.
Yes, and he'll gain at least one place, I believe, when Army pits. He's the only driver who hasn't pitted, and I think he's just coming in now, actually.
So, finally, we'll have everybody who has pitted, and everybody will be in final net positions, and we won't have to do any more maths to work out who is going in what position come the end of this race. So Nerva leaves the session having had a pretty disastrous race earlier on and crashing out, but let's see how this all shakes out then. So in the lead we still have NTG Freak, who's extended that gap to almost 20 seconds. He is still pushing like mad, and he's flying so much faster than everyone else, and that gap is now almost a full pit stop over P2, which is just insane. And is pretty much a full pit stop back to Deagle Killer in P4, and you can see pretty much where Aresi was in the running order when people came out of the pits, and you can see how much time these guys have lost in trains behind Aresi initially and then behind Curly, and it's just cost them so much.
I know, I mean, they're 26 seconds behind the podium,
Yeah.
Deagle. Although Michael's got quite an advantage on tyre wear, so we've still got 11 laps to go, so Michael may be able to get the pass him, but as it stands, Freak is going to take the lead of the championship by a significant amount.
Which would be not funnily deserved, incredibly well deserved from the display we've seen so far from him in this race, as Epic Gamer picks up a 3-second time penalty again. I believe that's his second, so that's 6 seconds worth of penalties, which is not great at all for him, but he's actually somehow managed to get himself onto the back of Deagle Killer and Michael, so from looking like a terrible race early on, it seems to be that it's coming to him a little bit more, although he will have to pay the price for those penalties later on in the race. So as we start lap 28, it is still Freak from Nardi, from Alex, from Deagle Killer, from Michael, who is so close to the back of this Red Bull, but like so many people in this race, cannot find a way past.
Yes, and Army is pitted, and now he's trying to get past the sour J-Form. J-Form's actually missing a single amount of M place on the left-hand side, so this may be a no contest for P10 very shortly. They're going side by side up towards Casino Square, and J-Form just about gets space. Oh, he goes deep, and there goes Danny. Good move to get up to P10.
And that puts him up into the final points paying position, and only a second and a half behind Tim Palm on much fresher, much faster tyres. So I don't think that's all we're going to see from Danny in this race. Let's go back to Michael and see if he's made any progress in his attempts to try and get past Deagle Killer, and unsurprisingly he hasn't. He's been stuck at about half a second back for lap after lap after lap, and he hasn't been able to do anything just because it's so difficult to overtake, and the dirty air has just meant he can't get anywhere near close enough.
Yes, and I was just watching Ollie just try to go for a big move around the outside the Nova chicane, but he cut the corner, so he gave the position back to Jarno.
No, so fair racing at least, but it's caught up to Jarno so quickly, about 4 seconds in the last few laps alone, and I'm sure he will be a very angry man after that incident with Big C, so I can't imagine he'll be happy to hang around for very long battling with this Force India. He doesn't look for a move into Sandavot though. Let's see if he goes for a move into Massenet though. As we go up, Beau Rivage is sat in the slipstream with that Force India. Is he going to send it? Looks to the outside, tries to kind of force the Force India into a mistake. Force the Force India is not a phrase I'd like to say very quickly, but he's looking down the inside again into Mirabeau, and that's not really an overtaking opportunity from that far back. I think he's learnt his lesson this time though. He's not going for the outside of the Lowe's hairpin again anytime soon.
No, not at all. There's a lot of hot debating about that incident at the hairpin between Ollie and Big C. It's kind of 50-50 whose fault it was. So be interested to see what if it goes to the stewards, what they think of it. But here comes Ollie again. Yeah.
Looking around the outside of the Nouvelle chicane. He's going to cut the corner again. No, this time he manages to keep it on the track. They both stay out of the wall. They're going to be side by side through to back. Ollie surely can't try and go around the outside here. He's trying it, and he's pulled it off. Wow, what a move. They are still side by side, and finally Ollie gets through, and he's made another stunning overtake, and this time Yano gave him space, and he went around the outside to back. That is not a phrase I thought I'd be saying tonight.
Yeah, well, fair play to Yano. He gave him some brilliant racing room there to make that possible, but that was a fantastic move from Ollie at the place. Well, I don't think I've ever seen someone do an overtake there.
Neither. That's insane racing. And Michael gets past Deagle Killer down the inside into the casino section, and I have a feeling that's got a little bit dirty there somewhere, because there's a front wing everywhere through the casino section, as now Epic Games trying to make the most of it as well, going around the outside of Miro, down the inside into the Lowe's hairpin. Surely he's got that one to stick, and he has, as they both have to slow down to walking pace through the hairpin to try and get it stopped and not hit the wall. So in all of that, whilst Ollie was making that move, there has been huge drama between Michael and Deagle Killer, the guys who are the top two in the championship at the moment, and yeah, it did not look great at all from either of their points of view.
No, well, we didn't see all of it, so it might have been that Deagle made a mistake, but either way, Michael had much fresher tyres than Deagle. He's now on 28 lap old super soft, so he should make the end, but he's going to be really struggling for any sort of decent traction, and you know, Ollie will be rapidly catching him, so he's going to have some more defending to do, I feel.
Yeah, and somehow Ollie's going to manage to catch up to the back of this train again. If he manages to overtake any of these guys and get up into P4, that would be a minor miracle, considering where he started and then the incident that he had in this race. The fact that he's still in the race, having parked it at the Lowe's hairpin, is a miracle in itself, but if he can get back up into the top 4, that would be something else. As I believe Michael does have wing damage, because Epic Gamer has caught him so fast there.
Tim Palmer's gone deep at Sandoval. He recovers it, but he's out of the points now. Curly Whirly's in the points on the pad, so that is absolutely brilliant. Although he's got Flores right behind him, so
and the leader is lapping them as well, I believe. That's gonna surely can't end very well at all, as that's not what Freak wants at all. Is lapping cars who are fighting for position. That is a race leader's nightmare. You do not want to be coming up behind a pair of lapped cars who are battling with each other. Let's see how quickly they get out of the way of that Mercedes, who has been imperious all day, and I'm pretty sure he now has an entire pit stop advantage over the two Williams cars, which is just ridiculous. He has been so much faster than everybody else today. I don't think I've ever seen a display quite like this, as he laps Flores in the McLaren into the Nouvelle chicane. He's lapped, well, he's going to have lapped everybody up to P10, which again is just completely crazy.
It absolutely is. But speaking of the Mercedes, the other Mercedes All ED is now right behind Deagle's wounded Red Bull, and I don't think this Bull is going to have much to fight with very shortly.
Let's see if Ollie can get the move done then. Can he make it cleanly into Massenet? The Red Bull's going very, very defensive. Can Ollie send it down the inside? He looks for it, but Deagle's very late on the brakes and somehow manages to carry quite a lot of speed through there. But Ollie takes a nice line through the casino section. We've seen him do this many times before, looking down the inside into Mirabeau. That time he's a little bit too far back, and I can't imagine he'll be sending it into the Lowe's hairpin either, although Deagle's very, very wide. He's going so slowly through there, but there's just no way through for Ollie whatsoever, so he has to sit behind again, and he's still behind that Red Bull.
Yeah, absolutely is. I think any more position than that may not be possible in the closing laps, but yeah, Deagle be a minor miracle if he holds back this Mercedes in the closing laps. This isn't that many speed, but actually Epic Gamers now right on the back of Michael as well, I've noticed.
He's applying so much pressure to the back of that McLaren, but he appeared to be hit with a huge wall of understeer through to back, so I'm not sure whether he's got wing damage or he's just struggling with his tyres, as they both hit the wall pretty much in sync on the exit of the swimming pool section, and they are both absolutely throwing their cars around here. They are pushing right to the limit as we start lap 33 of 39 of this Monaco Grand Prix, which has provided us with so much entertainment, so much drama, and so many controversial talking points. And I imagine we'll probably see some more before this race is over, as we go back to Ollie D and his battle with Deagle Killer. Can he look down the inside into Massenet again? He's going so much later on the brakes. Deagle's not giving him a huge amount of space at all. He's going to have the outside for Casino. Is he going to look for a cutback line? He is. And it's going to give him the inside for Mirabeau, and this would be a very nice move if he can pull this one off. Deagle doesn't have anything to fight with, and Ollie pulls off another stunning move and makes his way up into P6.
Yeah, we've got yellows in sector 2. Not sure what's happened. No, I think whatever it was, all yellows in sector 3. Jay Fawn is out of the race.
Wow, so from well down the order, I think it was P14 or P15. He has crashed out of this one. Let's see if that brings out a safety car. That would be just the last bit of excitement that we need to finish off this race. We haven't had one up until now in this race, which I have to say is a bit of a surprise. I thought we were definitely going to be seeing a safety car at some point. As we're riding with Epic Gamer, who isn't quite able to close right up to the back of Michael in the same way that he was able to before. And before long, I think these guys are going to have Ollie D to contend with as well. So it is not over. It's not over at all in this race.
No, and the other half of Danny G is now right on the back of Jarno's Force India, which seems to have lost even more in place than from the last time I watched him. And Curly Whirly still holding off Forrest in fine style, and I think he, as long as he doesn't make mistakes, he's got fresher off shots, he should be able to hold them off.
It would be an incredibly impressive drive from Curly if he manages to finish in P10. But we said whilst he was doing that first, and it was a pretty much perfect drive from up until this point, and it appears that just by keeping it clean, by staying out of other people's battles that he didn't need to, he has managed to get himself in the points, which would be a remarkable result. So, staying with Danny though, can he get anywhere near this Force India into the Lowe's hairpin? No, he can't, but interestingly, Ollie D has halved that gap to Epic Gamer and Michael. This is going to get very, very interesting before the end of the race.
Oh, absolutely. Epic Gamer's got a few extra laps of wear on the Supersoft. He's actually dropped out of the DRS range now, Michael, so he must have made a mistake somewhere in Sector 2, and that could put him into the clutches of this raging Mercedes driver who's coming up behind trying to get damage limitation. But yeah, I think Danny MG, I think there have been a few drivers in the midfield who've really impressed, have kept it clean, and they're on for some good point scores.
It would be very interesting to hear Ollie's point of view of that crash, because it did look, as people in the chat are pointing out, very 50-50. You could attribute the blame to either of them, really. You could say it was unrealistic of Ollie to expect to be able to go around the outside of the Lowe's hairpin, which isn't really an overtaking opportunity. But then again, we saw him pull it off the previous lap on another car, so maybe he was expecting a bit more space than Big C was giving him. And it looked like very robust defending, but we'll have to wait and see until we get a replay from either of their point of views to see whether it was unfair or not.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be up to the steward to sort it out if it's reported, and that's all we can say. You know, Michael, Epic Gamer, and Ollie D now all together in the battle for fourth.
And Ollie has closed that gap so rapidly, and it's so much of a pace advantage. I think Epic Gamer is either struggling with his front wing or his tyres, and the same for Michael, because they have just been really, really struggling these last few laps. And those tyres are definitely going to feel worse for wear, particularly on the Haas car, who has done 29 laps on that set of Supersofts. They are definitely not designed to go that long.
Yeah, well, Deagle and Jarno, they've done 33 laps on those Supersoft tyres, so they've done,
wow.
They'll do well to get those to the end. But yeah, the Supersoft just seem to last forever, but they are very slow tyre by the end.
As proven by Michael, Epic Gamer, who are going very, very slowly at this point. Can Ollie find any way through? He's got 3 laps remaining to try and do something on these 2 cars in front of him. 2 cars who might end up fighting for the championship later on in this season. Is he going to look for a move down the side of Massenet? He kind of fakes to go for it, but Epic Gamer is comfortable enough to go later on the brakes and then round the outside at Massenet. And is that just me, or am I seeing rain on my screen as Epic Gamer hits Michael and it's all kicked off again as Ollie still can't find a way through? I'm fairly sure I'm seeing raindrops there.
I can't see anything yet, but it has got dark all of a sudden. It's mist. Some of the cruise ships in the harbour have disappeared from my screen. So, yeah, maybe we are getting rain. And goodness me, some of these old tyres, it's going to be a nightmare to get them home. It is a high downforce. Yes, rain. It is rain indeed.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well you can see it on stream, but looking at Ollie's car, you can just see raindrops on the halo and on the front of the car as well. Just in case you needed any more drama here. As we've seen twice already this season, it started raining at the end of the race. I mean, it's not going to rain enough for intermediates or anything, but it's definitely going to make it just a little bit more difficult for Michael and Epic Gamer to stay ahead here, as we're about to start lap 38. Can Ollie do anything to get past Michael and Epic Gamer? Not at the moment. He's going to have to sit behind for another few corners at least.
Well, he's going to have the advantage in terms of pure grip. I mean, if this rain falls quickly, some of these guys are going to be slamming into the back in no time, and it seems to be coming down quite hard already. No spray yet, but oh my goodness, Epic Gamer doesn't have any grip left whatsoever on the wrist.
No, his car was trying to kill him through Massenet and Casino. It just looked like it was tempting him so much just to swap the ends of the car around and throw him into a barrier, which would be heartbreaking for him, considering the trials and tribulations he's experienced this evening if it all went wrong on the penultimate lap here. After that qualifying mistake, which gave him a 5-place grid penalty from hitting the Force India, which wasn't entirely his fault, it just hasn't really gone right for him so far in this race. Is Ollie going to look down the sides of the Nouvelle chicane? No, he's not, and again he has to sit behind. He's running out of corners here.
He certainly is. Just want to mention Danny did a great move around the outside of Yano into Katina Squares. He's now up to P8 and should storm away. But yeah, the rain is starting to come down harder, and there is a little bit of spray coming back off some of the cars, but it should be okay for the likes. But this is going to be such a worry for Freak. Freak did not want this at all, but you know, he can just slow down and bring the car home. He's got 26-second lead gap. He doesn't need to push at all.
He's got plenty of margin to cruise, but the battle we're looking at now is the battle for P4, as Ollie's got a much better exit than Epic Gamer. Is he going to look down the inside into Massenet? No, he's not. There's just no grip at all out there for anybody, let alone the guys who've spent almost the entire race on one set of super softs. Surely Ollie's going to look down the inside now into Mirabeau. He goes for it, but Epic Gamer is late enough on the brakes to withstand that move. And still, it is Michael in P4, Epic Gamer in P5, and Ollie D in P6.
Yeah, don't forget, these guys still got an extra lap to do, because Freak's about halfway through his last lap. But oh, and a mistake from Ollie!
Oh dear, and he's lost it, and he's hit the wall, and he's going to have to do a 3-point turn to try and get out of there. Oh, and it's all gone wrong again for Ollie. He finds himself in the barrier yet again. His race was looking so promising. He started on the super softs from P11, worked his way up the field very impressively, made a couple of very nice moves, but he's found himself in the wall twice, once at the Lowe's hairpin where he got a bit of a helping hand from Big C, and then once just then, which looked like it was his own fault. I missed the start of that and only caught just the end, so an unfortunate race for Ollie D in the end, but P6 I think is reasonably decent damage limitation given the events that have unfolded. So as we're on board with NTG Freak, who has driven superbly, faultlessly, for 39 laps of Monaco, the difficulty of which cannot be overstated. So, up to the line, NTG Freak will cross the line to win the Monaco Grand Prix by 28 seconds. More than a pit stop from the car of Williams Nardi behind him. That is one of the greatest drives I have ever seen in this league. Nardi, again, impressively in P2, but no match for NTG Freak whatsoever today, and the same for Alex, an impressive podium, but no match for the leader whatsoever, as we now have a battle for P4 unfolding half a lap behind. The gap between these guys and the leader is just ridiculous. But it looks like Michael...
slowly.
Yeah, they are going so incredibly slowly. The rain, the DRS has been disabled, so these guys are driving on what is now officially considered by the stewards to be a track that's ready for intermediate tyres, and they are struggling so much.
Oh yeah, big time. Or can they actually get to the end without crashing? They're just going to have to crawl around. Ollie might still have half a chance of picking up one of these guys.
No, Ollie's well behind. He's locking up and missing the chicane, as well as Epic Gamers drifting through there. He always hits the wall at the swimming pool section. You don't want to make a mistake now. The nerves here from Michael and Epic Gamers. They're just trying to survive this final sector. He runs very wide at Raskas, but I think he's done enough to keep it ahead of that Haas just about. So he was our championship leader coming into this one. I'm not sure whether he's still going to be our championship leader come the end of it. But Michael will cross the line in P4, just ahead of Epic Gamer. And then Ollie D will cross the line in what's going to be, in the end, for him, a fairly disappointing P6 given what could have been in this race. Oh, and what a race. Monaco didn't disappoint, did it?
No, it was very entertaining, but as we mentioned before the race, traffic played such a role in the destiny of some of the race results here. But at the end of the day, it was the Mercedes driver who's not only won the race, he's taken the lead of the championship after 6 rounds.
And he does fully deserve that based on the performance that we've witnessed today. I don't think I've ever seen a more dominant drive in AOR F1. The quality of these drivers is immense, so to beat the entire field by almost 30 seconds is like nothing I've ever seen before. So Dominic Hoffman in that Mercedes is, well, it's turning into a very good season for him, and I believe he's our first repeat winner as well. It's taken us 6 rounds to get a repeat winner, but I believe he is our first. After 5 different winners in the first 5 races, he's the first person to win a race twice, and yeah, there you go. The final margin of victory was 36 seconds. That is just unreal.
Yeah, that is a statement to the rest of the field at all, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think he could have been much more impressive, to be honest. So let's run you through the final order then. It is NTG Freak who won from Williams Nardi in P2, with Williams Alex coming home in P3 ahead of Michael in P4, Epic Gamer, and then Ollie D in P6, with Well, actually, Ollie D in P6 was the last man to finish on the lead lap. I don't think I've ever seen that before either. And then Deagle Killer, Yana Racing, Danny MG, and Curly Whirly are the last people in the points, with Big C a disappointing 11th, having been so far up the order, with then Flores having more adventures today as per usual, ahead of Alex, Tim Palm, who was the last finisher, and then Jay Thorne, Flying Finn, Nervo, Aresi, and RC Alonso, the DNFers in that race.
Yeah, a few significant names retiring, but yeah, the day completely belongs to Freak. Definitely driver of the day for me.
Certainly. I mean, had Ollie been able to get into P4, I think potentially that award could have gone to him, but I think based on that performance, nobody was on Freak's level whatsoever in that race. But anyway, I think that is going to do it for this evening. So make sure you go and tune into the PC stream and then the Xbox stream later. But from us on PS4, that is going to be it. So thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.